Hello, and welcome to the Ripple Impact Podcast, where we dive into those fascinating, unexpected ripples that change everything. Today, I am delighted to introduce someone who's been redefining what the future of food can taste and feel like. Please welcome Clara Best. Clara
Hi.
is the founder of Saved. Good morning. She is the founder of Saved, a food startup tackling sustainability in the most unexpected and delicious way by making insect protein, yes, insect protein, a mainstream pantry staple. Before launching Saved, Clara was deep in the world of insights at PepsiCo with me, crafting strategies for mega brands like Lay's across Europe and helping retail giants like Tesco's connect better with their shoppers. But actually, it was her personal journey trying to go plant-based that rippled into something much bigger. And she's been on a mission to make sustainable eating easier, tastier, and way more exciting. So let's dive in. Clara, welcome to the show. Wonderful to have you here.
Thank you, Laura. I'm so happy to be here as well.
I would love to start at the very beginning with those early days and those early choices and those unexpected first ripples that set everything off in motion for you. Can you tell our listeners and our watchers how your journey all started?
Yeah, sounds good. So I'm originally from Geneva, Switzerland, and I moved to the UK when I was 18, and I had started my undergrad in business school, and I've always been very passionate about the consumer space. I love eating. I love food. Like I love like a lot of people, but this is what draw my attention, my passion into food and joining PepsiCo initially. And the way I joined PepsiCo was through a startup challenge where people had to submit new ideas to PepsiCo and had to present it. So I joined PepsiCo 6-7 years ago now, and I joined the insight function just like you. And this is where we met.
Yeah.
That first decision to join PepsiCo rippled into a world of, I love the consumer space. It validated that initial assumption. I love entrepreneurship through that startup challenge where you had to submit that idea to PepsiCo, and also that focus on sustainability. And 2 years in, like these three things became even stronger, where I decided to stop quit Pepsi and start my own business to help people eat more sustainably through insect protein. So that was quite a move, but it was still in the consumer space, could finally do the entrepreneurial journey that I had in mind. And that focus on sustainability, which was really important for me.
Amazing. So tell us a little bit more about the PepsiCo journey. How did that all start? Tell us a little bit more about that.
So PepsiCo, I joined the graduate program in Insights, which is a great one. So every year you change job, they promote you and you get to work in different areas. So the first year I joined the Shopper Insights team in the UK. And then the second year I joined the Consumer Insight team working on Lay's in Western Europe. So it was fascinating. And Insight is a key function for every big business, even small one, actually. Yeah. Pepsi was very innovative in terms of fetching ideas from their employees from outside. And this is the way I came in. And I did a lot of like internal innovation competition, which is great and really sparked that interest in entrepreneurship.
Amazing. And tell us about the internal competition that you entered. Give us a little flavor of that.
It was actually really fun. It's called The Next Big Idea. And I used the same idea that I applied to get the job, which was Pepsi Drops. So soda into effervescent tablets to reduce single-use plastic. So think of Baraka, the vitamins that you put in the water. Yeah. But in soda form. So you would have your Pepsi tube, you have your whatever drink you want in droplet format, and everyone has access to water and you just drop it in. So you would reduce single-use plastic, transport pollution and cost as well drastically. So that was really fun. And you had to build a team internally. So I worked with someone in Asia of marketing, I think Gatorade. So people, you have access to like an amazing talent pool that you would never have access to. And it was my first steps into leading a team. So I had someone in finance in Spain, head of sustainability as well, Cindy in Ireland. So it was really, really fun. And we had a good time working on this.
I mean, that's such an incredible experience, isn't it? For someone in the early stages of the career to be leading a cross-functional team, to be leading such a senior group of people and to lead people in multiple countries. Like, what an incredible experience. How many years into your professional career were you when you did that?
It was year 2.
Wow. That is amazing.
No,
Like
it was 23. Crazy.
A lot of people don't get that.
No.
an opportunity, did they? And it takes such bravery to put yourself forward for that, because it's a big investment in time, isn't it? And there's
Yeah.
a lot of investment in time, and what you're signing yourself up for is such a huge project. How long did it run for?
It ran for a good 3 months, 4 months, and it was all alongside your normal job. So
Yeah,
everyone had to be very committed, but they made it very playful, where as an employee, you could be the one submitting ideas and working on the ideas. So there was
yeah.
over 600 ideas across the world,
Wow.
and then you get to the top 20, but then you have virtual money to invest in ideas.
Yeah.
And then this is how, like, you have a leaderboard. They make it very playful. The main outcome of this is if you actually end up winning out of 600 ideas, you get
Mm.
to implement the business. So it's a huge opportunity, especially if you want to be intrapreneurial.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think the stakes are high.
Yeah, absolutely. And how far did you get? I mean, I know these answers, right? But you can tell our listeners, how did you do?
We were almost number one for a long time, and we ended up being in I think in the top five ideas.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we didn't end up winning, but it was a bit of a stretch in terms of business model for PepsiCo
Yeah.
with the bottlers, etc. But it was still an incredible experience to be able to do that.
Yeah, amazing. What did you learn about yourself and or business in that process?
That I wanted to do it on my own.
Yeah. Poor Pepsi, they invested in you to build you into the program. Then you're like, right, I'm going to set up my own business.
Yeah, no, the confidence for sure, right? Like
Yeah.
exactly as you said, like being able to lead a team that
Mm.
was way more senior than me across the world, and having the resources as well to learn a lot, use previous use cases as a stepping stone. So yeah, I mean, just the confidence as well.
Yeah, yeah, incredible. And if you don't mind me telling everyone, I was your mentor at
You
PepsiCo.
were, you were.
And I remember saying to you, I'm going to work for you one day because you were a rock star and I can see incredible things for you. And this was even before you set up Saved, right? Because
Yeah, it was.
I could just see your energy and your passion and your commitment and your ability to use that confidence to step into something. And that takes serious bravery.
Thank you. It
Yeah,
means a
it
lot.
does. It really does. So, what was the moment from PepsiCo to Save? Tell us a little bit about that.
I think the key moments for me were personally, I was trying to eat way more plant
Mm,
based at home, and I struggled with the options that were available to me.
yeah.
Pulses make me bloated, Beyond Meat didn't feel like I wanted to eat that every night.
Mm,
And then the tofu, tempeh, seitan options, it's not really part of our, at least my culture in Western Europe. So it was hard for me to integrate if I don't spend an hour and a half cooking.
yeah.
So that was kind of the first frustration. The second is my North Star, which was food and
Mm,
sustainability, came in even stronger. And I think I wanted to work more on that lens of my life. And I just started testing at home while still being at Pepsi, ordering different types of protein. And this is where the insect protein came in of this is an amazing protein source. How are we not eating this in larger
mm.
amounts? And just by testing at home and like testing it on my husband, like he was kind of my guinea pig. I felt I had something.
Yeah,
I just had to take the leap of faith and
I
just
love
jump
that.
into it.
Amazing. So a lot of people aren't going to have eaten insects, right? Who are
Mhm.
listening or watching this. Tell us why insects make such a great protein option for us to be consuming.
So you have animal protein and you have plant-based protein. And insect is great because it's as sustainable as plant-based because it's raised in vertical farms, but then it has all the benefits of animal protein. So by that, I mean a complete protein. So you digest it really well. It's very, very high in protein. It has like cricket has between 70% and 80% protein, and the
Wow.
remaining are good fats, for example. It has a lot of vitamins. So it's just an incredible superfood that no one really knows about.
Yeah.
And it's exactly in that in between of it's way more sustainable, but also the quality of the protein is incredible.
Yeah, wow. And how did you even discover that? How did you go from I want to make something incredibly great for the planet. Okay, crickets, that's the answer. Tell us how that happened. How did that come about?
Yeah, because I think, especially even in the insect world, there's
Mm,
2,000 edible species of insects. So why did I
wow.
came up with cricket was a bit of a random one. I think out of all the proteins that I've tried, what makes insect protein so good, I was
Mm,
keen to work with something also a bit niche, also very different. No one really did that in Europe. Well, there's a few players, but it wasn't huge. So I thought there was
yeah.
as an opportunity and a white space. And then in terms of cricket, so in Europe, I wanted to make a sustainable food business. So importing the insect from Asia or Latin America wasn't very sustainable move. So I was restrained by the offering in Europe and the insect farms in Europe, and they do exist. So you had grasshopper, mealworms, and crickets. And crickets had the highest protein content. And also compared to mealworms, which were easier and cheaper to get, I think because of the perception of insect protein, which is not great in the Western world, mealworms is even worse. Like people imagine something slimy and it's not great, whereas cricket was already better. So this is how I settle.
There's a scale of good insects.
I know,
Scale of,
exactly.
acceptability of insects. I love that. So if you don't mind me asking, how old were you when you left PepsiCo and went and set up your own business?
I was 25.
Wow. Please let me have this in the podcast, because I was like, have the bravery to step out of a corporate world only a few years into it and set up your own business at 25, to me is seriously inspiring. I've only just had the guts to start it at, how old am I? 43. Like, what gives you your confidence and your drive? What gives you that fire to go, I can do this. I'm just going to go.
A lot of founders will say this, but you do have to have a certain level of naivety to actually go into this. If you know how hard it will be, you'll never do it. And that's a good thing about founders, because otherwise it's a hard move. I think there was a few things, PepsiCo giving me that strength of I can actually do it. And the fact that the idea ranked quite well and I had a lot of support internally, even from you, was giving me kind of some wings. On the other side, I also thought, like, if I don't do it now, when will I do it? It's not when I will be a bit older or like children, family. I don't know. There's a lot of blockers. Now is the best time. And if I fail, I'm sure I'll find another job. And I think it's that American culture that is present in the UK. People do appreciate the effort of you starting a business and value that experience, even if it turns out not to be the outcome you want. I was very naive.
But that's good though, because as you said, if you know what you're getting into and you realize how much is coming and what you have to learn, it might put you off. But actually, if you just take it step by step and one day at a time and one new learning curve, then you grow so much. And I felt it in the last few months of setting this up. The growth is incredible. Just learning new skills and putting yourself out there. When we talked before, you've talked about cold DMs and cold calling as a superpower for your career. In fact, let's wind back. Like, how did you even start? So you go, right, I want to set up a sustainable business. I want it to be insect protein because that's really sustainable. It's fantastic for the planet. How did you start? What were the steps? What did you do?
So the title of the podcast is The Ripple Impact. And I think the biggest ripple for Save, besides my PepsiCo experience, was the fact that I needed a tiny push. And what I did is that I applied while I was still at PepsiCo into a lot of accelerator programs. So for those who don't know what it is, it's like a short form program for founders. And you have usually mentorship. Some will take equity in your business or not, or will invest, but you have mentorship, coaches, workshops to really like set you up for success. And they have different themes like tech or sustainability. So I applied to one that had a sustainability lens. I never thought I would have it, especially the fact that I didn't even start with insect snacks. I had like that obsession with bagels, and I wanted to do the insect bagels.
Yeah, I remember.
Which was, you take the niches of protein and then you take the niches of like food offering. So it wasn't a good combination, but I had a weird obsession. I got into that accelerator program. And what I did, I just handed out my notice at Pepsi and did my notice period plus the accelerator program at the same time. So it was a perfect winding into the entrepreneurial journey without me having to resign and have my first day at Saved on my desk. Like, okay, what do I do now? I wasn't like that. It was really gradual, and I had time to prepare myself over that 3 months period, and had coaching, mentorship, other startups in the sustainability space. So it was great. It was a good way in. But I guess that to answer your point, the first thing that I had to do was to focus on the product and have a product that was good enough to be able to try and gather like consumer insight. How do people react to the protein? How am I going to position the product in terms of the retail offering? And this is how I pivoted from bagel to ambient food and further along the line snacks.
Yeah. And you had such a great knowledge of snacks working at PepsiCo, right? Yeah. So taking what you know and taking your passion and combining that into something fantastic.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. So tell us a little bit more about the accelerator program. Like, how did you go from that then into getting an investment? Like, for anyone that's never set up a business before, how do you go about getting investment?
I think like accelerators are definitely like a great start, and a lot of accelerators would give you a bit of a funding to start with. I think the usual first step to get started would be friends, family, and fools, how they call it. So like having people that have followed you along,
Yeah.
mentors, ex-colleagues, friends, family, and that's usually a great first step. What I did very early on, I knew, especially as a solo founder, which I don't recommend to a lot of people because it's really hard in the
Yeah.
longer term to be alone, is to have a great network of advisors. And that's something I knew since I was alone, I had to have. So I reached out to a few people on LinkedIn that I really valued for the career path and the skills I was missing. So I knew sales I didn't know much about. I had an amazing advisor who was at Minor Figures for years and led the commercial team in Europe. And she was incredible. We worked through a plan of action, a Word document that I just followed step by step. There's someone else in the growth function in the alternative protein space. So he knew a lot about that space and was of great guidance. But initially, just refine your positioning. What is a vision you're trying to achieve, and then just find the right people to work with you, because that's just how initially it works.
Yeah. And how you galvanize other people around your vision as well, right? Because
Yeah,
sometimes,
exactly.
especially if it's the founder, right, it's your baby, isn't it? And it's something that you're so deeply passionate about. But there's such an important step to get other people as passionate about your vision and your plan as much as you are. So how
Yeah.
did you go about doing that?
Oh, it's a tough question. I think as you're doing now with the ripple impact, right? You do have to get out there and like expose yourself. And I think what I did very early on was the power of LinkedIn. And
Yeah.
it's a free resource. Everyone can write on it. You can build your
Yeah.
brand. And especially as a founder, you have a business that will become you. Talking about it quite openly on LinkedIn was a great first step onto
Yeah.
gathering the support I needed. The biggest challenge of my business was the public perception of insect protein. So
Yeah.
being able to talk openly about it on LinkedIn was a great platform to
Yeah.
convince even more people and actually get people on that journey. So that was a very easy first step. And I really tried to be out there and do a lot of trade shows, a lot of sampling to understand people's behavior, get people reaction towards a product, and just try to build that community one person at a time.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. LinkedIn is a really powerful platform for your network, isn't it? And often they say it's who you know, not what you know, and building incredible people around you that will support you along the way. One thing that I've really found setting this up is what I didn't expect was how vulnerable I was going to feel.
Yeah,
Did you experience that too?
100%.
Yeah.
It's really, really hard, especially when times are not great. You have that pressure of the business needs to be at its 100% all the time, but it's not
Yeah.
the reality of things. You have ups and downs, and being okay with that vulnerability and things are not going the way like you want them to go. You just have to accept it and that it will happen,
Yeah.
and you have to put yourself out there as well, because it will teach people the reality of having a business, right?
Yeah, it's true because I've done lots of training around vulnerability and vulnerable leadership almost, and try to bring that into the way I worked and the way I led teams. But it's a funny thing being vulnerable because it feels so terrifying, but actually what you get back is incredible. So
Yeah.
if you can step into that vulnerability, the amount of support and empathy, and actually once it's out there, you're like, okay, that maybe wasn't as bad as I thought.
Yeah, that's usually how it is. And I remember you telling me back at Pepsi, well, you had such an amazing career, and being vulnerable in meetings with people that
Mm,
are more senior with you and
mm,
always speaking up your mind whenever you have
yeah,
something to say. You said that in day one, that even if I was perhaps the most junior in the firm,
mm,
like I have the right and the share of voice as much as someone very senior in the meeting, and being
yeah,
able to be vulnerable at any point is such a strength. And I feel, especially if you feel a bit stressed or not comfortable in a position, i.e. being vulnerable, this is where you will grow. If you're too comfortable, this is not working, right? So
yeah,
push yourself to be in that types of position to make sure that you continue growing and just better yourself.
I love that. And actually, what I told you was told to me at the beginning of my career by a
Hmm.
great manager. And the ripple impact of what they said has rippled
Yes.
onto all the people I've worked with, because I've said the same to everyone. You are here because you've been employed to be here because you're good. You have an opinion, you have a
Mm.
voice, you have learning and experience, and you want that cognitive diversity of thought irrespective of somebody's level. You want to bring that into your organization or your team or your project. I'm a big believer of sharing your voice, sharing your vulnerability, sharing your questions, because what always happens, you think, I've got a question and it feels really stupid. And then you're brave enough to ask it. And then you see other people going, oh, I wanted to ask that, but I didn't dare. It's sometimes just the bravery of putting yourself out there. And all of a sudden, everyone comes with you because they were feeling the same.
And it's just a great way of making yourself relatable.
Mm.
And I think that's what you've done so well over the course of time. Being relatable at any level, and people just knew they could talk to you. So exactly as you
Oh,
said, the
thank
ripple
you.
impact of that conversation you've had and on everyone and me as well.
Oh, thank you. I feel all very like, thank you. That's so kind. I remember saying to you, I want to come and work for you one day, because you were an inspiration to me. And I remember being at your launch of Saved and just thinking, like, wow, like to go from nothing, like as a founder, you start with nothing, right?
Literally.
Except for an idea and a vision and a passion and a commitment to something, and to see that to the launch and everything you did, it was amazing to watch your journey. What gave you that perseverance and persistence and resilience? Because there's knockdowns along the way, right? You know, you're doing cold outreach and sometimes you're rejected or you get a lot of silence. How do you deal with that as a founder? How do you deal with that journey?
I think it's really about having your vision crystal clear and sticking to it. Usually the vision is like the biggest part of your
Yeah,
business, and then you
yeah.
have the strategy, and then at the end you have the product. And what a lot of people would get excited by is the idea of a product,
Mm,
and then they would have the strategy to execute it, and only at the top will come the vision. And if the product is not right, how do they adapt the business model? It's
yeah,
complicated if the vision is
yeah.
just a tipping point. So I think in every ups and downs, and there's so many downs, exactly as you said,
Mm,
the rejection of cold emails, cold calling,
yeah.
and a lot of no's, especially for me having an insect business. People just don't know what it is, and you have to educate a lot of people. Sticking to that vision of I'm actually trying to make a better world by educating people around a new protein that I believe will still happen in Western. Well, it will come.
For
Sorry,
sure.
it will come in time that we will be eating insects.
Yeah.
So you just have to have that vision that you believe in to make you go forward.
So we've talked quite a lot about the starting of Save. Can you tell us some of those big ripple moments and some of those big achievements along the Save journey?
Yeah, I think first, which I've never had to deal with except that small project at Pepsi, was managing a team. I think it's a big highlight for me that I had amazing people follow me on that journey, and it's quite
Yeah.
humbling to just think, okay, that initial vision that I have, like actually people want to work towards that vision,
Mm,
which is really exciting. It's really hard to manage a team. I thought that was the hardest of it all. Amazing people along the journey, and I'm really grateful. The second thing would be to see the product that you've had, the idea you
yeah.
had in the mind, and just actually seeing it in your hands, seeing it on the
Yeah.
shelves. I think it's the best moment that you can ever wish
And the
for.
product tastes really good. It
I've
does, but
converted
you know,
Laura into
you
insect
have
protein.
converted me and every single person that you touched and got to taste the product, because there's a perception of insects like, ooh,
Yeah.
really? Not quite sure. Texture, taste, like, ooh, not quite sure. But actually, the taste is fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean,
No,
you
really
created an
proud of that.
incredible product.
Took inspo from Pepsi Cheetos to having that product, and all the steps that led me to have that product,
Mm,
going to Italy with my manufacturing, creating that product was such an exciting bit. And you never really
yeah,
see the behind the scenes of how food is made. And that
yeah.
was a really exciting part of the journey. And lastly, I think it's you serve customers and being able to build relationship with different
Mm,
types of people, distributors, caterers, and the end consumer was also very exciting. And having people actually be passionate about what you do as well is really, it's an incredible feeling.
yeah, and getting that live response from people when they try
Exactly.
the product, they taste the product and they see it. And I remember holding the packaging and being like, oh, you know, from seeing it, kind of the conceptualization into final packaged good and product is an exciting journey, isn't it?
Yeah, no,
And when
100%.
it's your own, it's just a whole new level of pride and excitement.
I will never forget like the faces of people when you tell them it contains insects.
Yeah.
We've done so many sampling sessions and people trying out because it's a product that people need to try. And whenever people tried it, 99% really liked it. But you always have that first hesitation of like, wait, what did you say? Like it contains crickets? So that's like faces I will never forget.
I love it because you have been several steps ahead of the food industry. It's kind of out there, but it's really under the radar. It's not in mainstream products on the shelves in all the supermarkets. You have been one step ahead. So it's incredible to watch you create something from scratch and do that, if you don't mind me saying, at such a young age. Like, it's really inspiring for me and for many to just show what you can do and what you can achieve when you have such a passion and a commitment to the product and such a skill set that you do to galvanize others to create what you did. I was like, I want to work for you one day. So it's always been wonderful to watch your journey. How does it feel to now be moving away from Save? It's not often a founder story that gets out there, is it? It's often,
No,
the highlights and the milestones and the achievements. But how does it feel now moving away from Saved?
Yeah, definitely the hardest decision I've made. So 2024 was the year I knew I was giving it all and has to yeah, either continue or I had to make that hard decision. First, the funding side. I think last year, funding wise, it was really complicated, especially for food products. The second lens was to get into retail, and that was a big milestone we were really fighting for. Unfortunately, didn't get enough funding, didn't get the retail partnership. So you mentioned timing before, and I think in businesses, timing is essential. And I don't think timing for insect is now for the mass market. And being in retail would be selling saved in the middle of nowhere, and I don't think people are ready yet. And also I had issues with my manufacturer, and I was just that tipping point of, do I actually really want to continue and push for it, or do I just accept that I had enough and I'm really proud of what I've done, and stepping down meant that I could focus on myself and focus on discovering other careers and hopefully go back to entrepreneurship at some point, but also have that sense of stability a bit more. Yeah, I decided to do an MBA at London Business School, and that gave me the space and the time to reflect on my journey, understand who I am, like post save. Like I'm actually not saved. I'm like a lot of other things, and that's been a great journey so far.
And what advice would you give to founders who are struggling with that tension between holding on to something and letting go? Because it must be a difficult emotional journey to do that, something you've committed so much to.
I feel like don't be scared of feeling that feeling of I don't want to do it paths anymore, that vision that we spoke about before. If you don't feel you have that motivation to pursue that vision, such a big flag initially, and this is what happened to me. I just didn't have the appetite enough to continue. And I think when that happens, you do have to listen to yourself and really do the pros and cons, do a self-reflection, talk to people. What we were saying, like being vulnerable and like accepting that this is not a failure, like you've done as much as you could and you shouldn't just continue because people expect you to continue. And I think that's the hardest thing for founders because you're proud to be a founder. You have all these amazing businesses that do so well, and you just don't want to be the one that didn't manage to achieve anything. But just by even starting a business is a huge achievement. So you shouldn't have that pressure of actually continuing just to continue.
Yeah. But the learning process as well. You must be a different person from the person that walked away from PepsiCo, John. You must feel like a different person now.
Yeah, just a few years, just a few more years now. I'm not 25 anymore, unfortunately. No, 100%. I think and I highly recommend anyone to start a business at some point. You learn so much about yourself, especially going through the crazy journey of a founder, even like managing a team, knowing what I'm good at, what I'm not, because you do so much about you do so many different things in a business, and that's the beauty of it. You really understand what are your strengths and weaknesses. No, I would do it again. I would do it again.
What advice would you give people that are literally starting this week?
Just don't be afraid and be open to talk about anything in your business openly, because you never know what will come out of it, even in your worst moment.
It's funny we talk about timing, because maybe you were just a little bit too early. Because what you were doing and the product you created and the philosophy behind it, I think is so powerful. And I'm so sad that retailers didn't take that punt because it is an incredible product. The story is incredible. What you're trying to do, and sustainability needs space and
Yeah,
it needs commitment. And there's a real epidemic at the moment of founders not getting the funding they need,
yeah,
and particularly female founders.
yeah,
In fact, it was on Alanis Morissette at Glastonbury, and on the back of the stage, she said, the global economy, women only make up 10% of it. And it's like, really? Wow.
yeah. It's
There's such
crazy.
an issue with founders not getting the funding that they deserve, and particularly female founders. I think
Yeah.
it's really, really tough. Anything you would give for female founders? Do you think there's different advice for women founders or not?
I feel like it shouldn't be, but I would say, based on the point we've mentioned previously of having a very strong network and surrounding yourself with the best people or the people
Yeah.
you feel like can really complement your journey, there's incredible networks of female founders like the Female Foundry, Alma Angels, which is an angel investment group only investing in female-led businesses. And now you have really powerful networks that is just worth tapping into. And it's a great community as well, just to share thoughts, bounce ideas off, get insights. I wouldn't give any different advice to a female founder versus male founder, but there are communities out there that exist and you should really take advantage of it. We've just spoke about female founders, especially solo founders, and that struggle to not be part of a community initially when you launch a business. How are you feeling with that? Because you've just launched your business.
Yeah.
It's doing really well, but it's usually quite lonely. How are you feeling?
It's a mad journey, I can tell you. Because I've been in corporate jobs for 20 plus years, like
Mm,
nearly 25 years. And you step away from structure and process and teams and things that you never realized that were done for you before. All of a sudden, you have to do everything yourself.
yeah,
So it's such a big change to go from a corporate life into entrepreneurial life. It's completely different. It's a completely different skill set. And you feel really vulnerable because you're learning
yeah,
everything for the first time. And also, there's a lot of pressure because if you're learning on a job, it's different because you've been given the time to learn. Where it's your own business, there's pressure that this learning has to then turn into something. The pressure's on me and solely on me. And it's quite difficult because there is no HR team, there is no IT department when something goes wrong and the tech fails. There's no one to call to say, can you help me? There's no one to call. So you have to learn everything yourself on the fly as you go. And that feels really vulnerable because I like doing a really, really good job. I'm not a perfectionist, but I like being really diligent and doing great work. And when you have to be scrappy and resourceful and do things on the fly, it doesn't quite have that, what I call kind of professional polish that I'm used to doing in a corporate life. So I've thrown myself into it and it feels really scary. And I did my first podcast were live from Cannes. I mean, I have no idea why I thought it was a good idea for my very first 3 podcasts to be live. I mean, I don't know what possessed me at all. But it was kind of good because you talked about at the beginning, if you knew what you were getting yourself in for, you probably wouldn't do it.
exactly. Yeah,
I'm finding actually a lot of confidence in just doing it.
yeah,
It's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be polished. I am not a professional podcaster by any stretch of the imagination, but my role in insights and branding is about understanding human stories. And this is what I'm doing with my guests, is understanding their human stories and the ripple impact that they've had or the ripple impact of their choices. Actually speaking to people like you gives me the confidence that I've got this. And I've got the benefit of having an incredible partner, an incredible family around me, and amazing friends, and people that have said yes to being on the podcast, like you. People have said yes. So I feel a lot of support from my community. I really, really do. And that's what's given me the energy to keep going. But it's blooming hard. It's really hard because there isn't a 9 to 5 job. There isn't a steady pay package. There's no
oh
pension
yeah,
contribution. There's no healthcare. There's no IT support. There's a lot of stuff that you are starting from scratch, and that's quite scary. But
it
you know
is.
what? It's given me so much passion and so much purpose and so much joy. Like, just having these human conversations to me is what marketing needs to be about, and it gives me joy. So it is hard. It is really hard. And ask me again in a week, it'll be a different answer to today.
But just that, I love what you said around you just have to do it. And these
Yeah.
lives from Cannes like might have been
Yeah.
a bit of a crazy idea, but you just
Yeah.
went for it. And I love And that's like an advice as well for any founders. Like, you just do it. Like, don't think twice about it. It will be scrappy. It will be not the thing you will be perhaps the most proud of in 5 years time looking back into it. But it's just, you just learn from these, right? And especially you coming from inside, like the insight you'll gather from all these initial steps will be immense. And it's just so exciting to just get started.
So my final closing question that I ask everyone, we're calling our guests like you wave makers, because you are making waves in what you've done and what you will continue to do. So thank you for that, because you've been an inspiration to me. So what advice would you give to aspiring wave makers and aspiring entrepreneurs? What advice would you give?
Stay true to yourself, stick to the vision that brings you joy, excitement, passion, and surround yourself with the best people. And then just do it.
And just do it. Just go for it. What's the worst that can happen? Just go
Exactly.
for it.
Why does the worst that can happen?
Oh, I love that so much. Clara, thank you so much for sharing your founder journey from building strategies at PepsiCo to completely reimagining food systems with Saved and insect protein. Your story reminds us that sustainability starts with your imagination, and real change can begin with one bold decision and the ripple impact that makes. To everybody listening and watching, Clara's path is a powerful example of how personal passion can spark broader transformation. Whether you're curious about insect protein or just rethinking how your choices affect the world, her story shows how one idea can ripple outwards and inspire many. So thank you, Clara, for being on the podcast. It's wonderful to speak to you as always.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you so much. So that's a wrap for this Ripple Impact episode. Tune in next week for more voices creating waves. Don't forget to subscribe and follow. I'm Laura Barber. This is the Ripple Impact. We will see you next week. Thank you so much, Clara. It's been a delight as always.
Thank you, Laura. It was such a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Speak soon.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. See you next week.